We're supposed to launch a new series today, new message series. It was created and written by Pastor Laura Vincent, and it's called Work in Progress. And it's about Peter's journey, the Apostle Peter's journey with Jesus specifically. And I want to just share a little bit about it. Laura writes about Peter. She says, Peter reminds us that following Jesus is rarely neat or linear. From the moment Jesus calls him, Peter stumbles, overcommits, doubts, denies, and yet keeps showing up. His story is one of bold faith and painful failure, honest questions and costly grace. And through Peter's missteps and moments of courage, we see a Savior who does not give up on imperfect people, but patiently shapes them over time. This series invites us to trust that God is still at work in us too, not waiting for perfection, but faithfully forming us step by step into who we are called to be. So Pastor Laura has asked Wendell and I to sit in for her this morning, and I'm speaking only from myself here and nobody else, but she's been carrying quite a lot professionally as well as emotionally and spiritually with the passing of many of our dear friend Jenny Sherds this week, our ELC director of nearly 20 years, dear friend of many of us, Laura and I specifically, for probably over 20 years. Pastor Adam's wife, Sarah Grace, Luke and Isaac's mom, and a family member to many. We will launch the new message series next week, and it's going to be great, and we'll get to it then. So here Wendell and I are. You're welcome. We're sorry. Your choice of feeling. You feel what you feel, okay? And we're going to talk about grief. And there was a black background and just the words, and I thought, man, that's very ominous. And so my dad threw the fireworks on there, and it's actually works. It's very fitting.
It works good.
So anyway, I'm kind of a sucker for the dramatic and, and all that stuff. So seriously, though, I think today is going to be very beautiful and very meaningful together. What do you think?
Yeah, I know this was an accident to have the screen look this way, but I think it's very appropriate. Many of us were in the room Thursday for that sacred time, just sacred time. And to say goodbye to Jenny and to comfort her family was one of the most horrible yet beautiful times you can imagine. And that's what grief brings with it. Grief can be the most horrible, dark, terrible time and the most beautiful time all at the same time. And it gets a little confusing, to have both of those extremely different emotions present in your heart and mind and in your community. But that's what happens with grief. And we're going to have a discussion, but I just want to open with a few thoughts to kind of frame things. Somebody, I don't know, made a lot of money or thought they were really smart or just wanted to be helpful. I don't know. Several years back came up with what they call the stages of grief. Pregnant pause. I like that. That's okay. But it makes you think that you're on a trip some way through grief, that you go to town A, and when you're done there with denial or bargaining or whatever, and you're done and you move on to town B. And then you move to town C and so on and so forth till you finally get to your blessed destination of acceptance.
Like there's a timeline.
Yeah, like there's a timeline or even a destination. And there's not. Grief just is. And so instead of saying stages of grief, it's probably better for us to maybe refer to them as facets of grief instead of stages, because they just kind of are, and they kind of just arbitrarily show up out of the blue. I went to bed last night and thought I was over this, and I woke up this morning and boom, here it is again. So it's just that way. And we talk about stuff like this every week in Pathway on Sunday night. We form a circle in the back there, And so we talked about this last Sunday night because it was so fresh. Jenny had just passed. So we took time. We had something else we were going to do, but decided it was probably better just to sit and process the grief communally together. It's pretty rich. It's pretty cool. Not cool like in cool, but it was helpful. Yeah, healthy and helpful. But it's interesting and not everything I'm going to say was in that circle, but it's interesting to watch how people approach grief. Some people approach it with regret. Boy, I wish I would have said. I wish I could have been there for that moment, or they invited me to go here with them and I didn't do it. Now I wish I had. Some people approach grief with, man, I hope I did that right. You know, if we help somebody pass, it's like, I hope I did that right. So they kind of score themselves a little bit. Some people with just raw loneliness is, next time I go to our meeting place, they won't be there. It's the empty chair at the table, you know. And so there's just that, what am I going to do? They're not there. And then other people kind of want to figure it out, you know. They want to ask the question why. You know, why did God take them? Why did, you know, and they assume that God took them, which I don't agree with, but you assume whatever you want to. But I don't assume that. It's God's plan. It was their time to go. Heaven needed another angel, and you know we hear all these lovely things said, and they come from a place of love. But it's like I want to figure this out. I want to have mental stability and mental assurance. So I've got to figure this out some way so I can feel good about things and move on. Yeah, be more comfortable. Yeah. So, and those are all, I think, not stages of grief, but those are all kind of facets of grief that we visit. And so, yeah, that kind of just, I don't know, I cleared my throat, Evan. Yeah. I've been to the Evan Harris School of Microphones. Anyway, that kind of just frames what we're going to talk about this morning. What do you got?
I don't like speaking in front of people like this, but I'm so glad to help Laura out, Pastor Laura.
I told him, I said, just make believe that we're back in the office. We share an office.
But not everybody wants to be a part of that conversation. But anyway, so I write down, I process by writing down some questions just to explore together. And you know, grief does not always contain a loss of a death of a person. Grief is moving, as you said, moving locations. Grief is, what did I say earlier? Grief is like a loss of a friendship, like a friendship deteriorating, a relationship deteriorating, a grieving like a job loss or change or a depression, entering into this depression out of nowhere. Why do I feel this way, you know? But one of the questions that I thought we might explore together is when we first remember experiencing grief, did we react or respond? Because a lot of times I feel like in those days it was mostly reaction rather than response, but maybe it was both. I don't know. What do you remember?
Well, tell your story.
So I probably remember it as a toddler watching my dad's great-grandfather pass, who he was very close to. And I remember Dad getting the call, or in my head I remember it one way, but then there are times you wonder, did that really happen that way? But as a child, you just remember things, and like watching him just fall on the couch, jeans and a T-shirt, I remember that, and just losing it, just emotionally. And as a child, I remember thinking, yeah, what's going on here? But I also remember like this feeling of, this is healthy. This is how someone is supposed to experience grief, if that's how they choose to experience it. Not everybody processes it the same. I totally understand that. But I think for him, and I was watching it, I was like, I think there's something healthy here going on. Yeah.
Kind of intuited it even as a kid. Yeah. When he sent this question to me, and so I got to thinking about it, and I think the two big grief stories in my life, and I'm just going to share them if that's okay, and I may lose it, and that's okay too. But my first wife, Carol, passed of cancer when I was 30. She was diagnosed when I was like 28, and she passed when I was 30. And the second big grief was when my brother Wade died. That still just kills me. And I know it hurts a lot of you here. I know a lot of you are close. Melinda, bless your heart. Yeah. So those are my two big grief stories. And I was just 30, and I remember when Carol died. Isn't this weird? But I mean, I was just 30. So I remember thinking, did I do that right? That was my primary thought, was did I care for her right, and did I grieve correctly? And I just kind of stuffed it. I was not at all like your dad. I didn't express it. I just stuffed it. And I went on with the life. I was being paid to pastor a church, so that's what I did. We had her funeral on Saturday, and I was in the pulpit Sunday morning. I didn't preach, but I was there. Because show must go on. That's just my thought. 30 years old, you got a job to do it. And so I just stuffed my emotions. And it wasn't until literally decades later, I had married Robbie, and we'd had a child, Jacob, and I thought life had just moved on. And I was early on in Celebrate Recovery before we changed the pathway. And it was at the Melrose campus in the MAC, when the MAC was the old way, turned the other way. And they asked me to tell my story, which is something we do. We tell stories, and we don't make them up. We like tell real stories, our stories. So I got up to tell my story, and I kind of had written out a script, which I usually don't do, but I thought, well, I'll write this out. And I was going through it, and I got to the part where Carol died, and I absolutely lost it from all those people. Didn't see it coming. Didn't know that would happen. But I just absolutely just melted. And later I thought, you never did process this. You stuffed it. And it took this to let it come out. And everybody was gracious, and it was good. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't. Yeah. But then many years later, you get little details you don't really need, but I'm an old guy, so I give you details. So we burn wood for heat. So I was walking up to split some wood. I had my split maul in my hand, I had my cell phone in my pocket, and I was walking up to split wood, and the phone rang. And I knew Wayne was going for some sort of biopsy or test or whatever. Was it gallbladder? I think it was that day, yeah. And so I picked up the phone. It was Wayne, and I thought, he's giving me a report on his gallbladder or whatever. And it's just 2 words in, I thought, this doesn't sound right. And so he said, brother, I have cancer, and it's not good. And I didn't hold that in. I stood out of my backyard, and both of us cried like babies. We just cried and cried. And we did many times before he passed. And like a day or two before he passed up at hospice, we just sat in the room, and Wade, he marshaled all of his energy, got up on one elbow, and we had our talk, our goodbye talk. And it wasn't too long after that he passed. And then that son of a gun asked me to preach his funeral. I told him, I said, don't you dare die first. You're going to preach my funeral. But he passed first, and probably one of the hardest things I ever did was to preach his funeral. But I was able to process some of my grief even then as I spoke. And when I look at the contrast between the two ways that I processed grief as a 30-year-old and then as a 60-something-year-old, and I thought, wow, these are so different. These are so different.
Had practice.
We talked about that in the first service. You kind of already alluded to it. Without knowing it, we really do have a lot of practice at processing or learning how to grieve. Unmet expectations, disappointments, letdowns. We don't look at that as being grief, but really it is. It's small. When somebody dies, it's the whole pie. When it's these things, it's just a little slice of the pie. But it's the same pie. And so we literally have opportunity to practice grief a lot of little times. And I don't think that you sign up for that. Yeah, I'll sign up for the Learn How to Grieve class. I'm going to get better at this. I don't think we look at it that way. But I think it's good for us maybe to give ourselves some credit. That might not even be the right word. To give ourselves some freedom to learn and grow unawares. Maybe not even knowing it.
What I hope we do is that we choose to do it communally, in community.
Yeah.
Although we also have to hold space together and let people process exactly like they do, because there's grace enough for that as well. And there's grace enough to say the awkward things and to feel the awkward things, to not know what to say, and just like hold all that kind of intention, which kind of brings me to another question of, let's say we were super close and connected to someone who is deeply grieving. And I think about Adam and the kids. That's what's in my mind all morning is Adam and Sarah Grace and Luke and Isaac. And what are some of the better practices that we can practice in those moments?
Yeah. We talked about this. We kind of stumbled into this in the first service. We practiced then. Now we're professionals now.
Yeah.
Do you think they buy that?
No.
I don't think so either. It's so tempting when you're with somebody who's grieving. He said to embrace the awkward silence and the awkwardness of it and just be there with them. And last Sunday night when we talked in our circle, Jeremy brought out and did so well in talking about the power of presence, just being there. You used another word, the potency?
Presence is potent.
Presence is potent. And and you think about what we want to do is we want to give some kind of reason. We want to give some sort of, God needed another angel, or it was their time to go. We want to say something that kind of fixes the situation and helps fix the other person. But if you think about that, when you set yourself up to do that, to fix or correct or corral or whatever, what you're doing is saying, I'm up here and I have the answers and you're down there, and so I will give you the answers as a person who is up here, which only creates distance. It's kind of, you use the word condescending.
But it's subconscious, right?
I don't think we mean to do that. No, I don't think we do. But I think it's just, it almost becomes our default setting. I want to help this person, so this is how I'm going to do it. But really what it's doing is it's not creating intimacy or connection, it's creating distance. But what he was talking about was just being present. I see you. I hear you. And I may not be saying anything, but I am here and aware. And my radars are tuned to you. Right now, you're the only person in my universe. You're the only person that matters to me. That creates intimacy.
Absolutely. And there's so many things that we could say, we could all share together in this moment. We'll never get to everything. We have food waiting for us, which is a beautiful way just to be together today, is to eat together. Two things I want to share with us, if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
Is, God, I hope this is true. I heard this was true, and I think, wouldn't it be cool if it was true? Did you know that cried tears are of a different substance? I have a therapist shaking their head, yes.
Oh, we approve.
Is a different, whether you mean it or not, you are kind of resident expert, some of you. The cried tears are of a different substance than eye-watered tears, because cried tears carry a chemical that water tears do not, and the chemical has healing powers. And so I think, man, that cry, no wonder I kind of have some type of better, healthier feeling afterwards. And thank you for like just nodding your head, because I was like, God, I hope that's true. Probably everybody else probably already knew that. And what we're going to do is I want to invite the band back, and we're going to play a song, 2 songs actually, because we do have to do that last song. It's very important. And I want to share something that I woke up writing. I woke up at 1 o'clock on Thursday morning, and I could not sleep. And I just wanted to feel better, honestly. I just wanted to feel better, so I wrote this. And I want to share it with you because it's for you. And it's born out of what I have learned from each and every one of y'all. Memory, a picture, a song, a smell, a taste, the sunshine, the rain, a precise moment, location. When we found out and we were forced into a whole new world of feeling and experience we did not know existed. Grief is a lunch hour date. Sometimes it stays overnight. Sometimes it tosses its luggage onto the guest room bed and moves in for an undisclosed amount of time, leaving evidence of its wake strewn about the house. Sometimes grief accompanies us as Michael Squints Palladorus, the one who married Wendy Peppercorn from the same line when he said, "Forever." It's a car horn that startled us out of nowhere. It's a running faucet drip continuously within earshot. It's not always a reminder of what once was, or what we had, or what could have been. Grief can become a smile, a laugh, an opportunity, a reason to get up every day and explore. Choose kindness, love, companionship, inspiration, honor, and purpose. I name my grief my cave. From time to time, I either walk in or I'm flung in. Sometimes I light a little fire in there. I'll watch the shadows flicker off the walls. Sometimes I just sit in complete darkness. Sometimes I medicate and fix. In an attempt to numb the pain, always I wait for a nudge. I thought I was alone in here. For a whisper. Or a yell. Hey, won't you come out and join us? We're going to go out and eat. We're going to get together and hang out. Grief just is. A dark passenger, a welcome accomplice. You have experienced great loss. You have risked loving big, and in return, experienced big pain. I have watched you in awe, in gladness, teach others how to grieve. Time after time. Talk about inspiration. Well, this sounds nice, Jeremy. Thank you for sharing. But where is God? Where is he? Well, I find him in a memory, in a smell, in a taste, in the sunshine and the rain, that nudge, that voice of whisper, or yell, the person in front of me, the hugs, the bugs, the gravel path, the wind, in words, in no words, the laughter, the ugly cry, out of left field, out of thin air.